The United States is the largest producer of poultry meat in the world. This amounts to 17% of the global poultry production. China and Brazil are also big producers, but America's consumption of poultry and poultry products is huge. On average, Americans consume over 95 pounds of chicken and 280 eggs per person each year. This is more chicken consumed than anywhere else in the world. The U.S. poultry industry boasts nearly 520 million chickens and nearly 225 million turkeys in its inventory at any one time. But each year it produces a staggering 8.5 billion broilers, almost 100 billion eggs, and 240 million turkeys. These numbers are huge, and poultry business in the U.S. is big business. But how does it work? Who are the farmers, and what are the profits like? Most of America's chickens are grown as broilers for the meat industry. Iowa, Ohio, and Indiana are the three states that produce the most chicken. In 2021, Iowa alone farmed 60 million chickens. When producing broilers, farmers usually buy in day-old chicks. These are nearly all housed indoors. They are fed chick crumb and growers' pellets as they mature. The environment in which they are kept is monitored and controlled closely. Commercial farmers have designed their broiler units in the most efficient way possible. The heat is kept high so that the birds don't waste any energy on keeping warm. All energy is used on growth. The light-dark cycles are dictated by the farmer, with more light than dark to encourage more time spent eating and therefore growing, and less time sleeping. Broilers can be packed into these units in their thousands. Some units house up to 40,000 birds. Legally, chickens are only required to have 1 to 1.5 feet of space each. After about 6 weeks, the broilers will be fully grown. They will be shipped out of their housing and off for slaughter. This is an incredibly short time period for chickens to reach maximum weight. Pure breeds that are allowed to grow naturally typically take 20 weeks to grow to maturity. But in the commercial industry, farmers need to see a return on their investment. Setting up a broiler farm is very expensive due to the cost of the units themselves and the running cost required for the heating and lighting. Maximizing profits means maximizing growth and minimizing time. As well as broilers providing meat, laying hens provide large numbers of eggs. The United States is the second biggest producer of eggs in the world, alongside India and behind China. In the 1940s and 50s, U.S. egg production was on the rise. Free-range birds were replaced by caged birds. This allowed farmers to keep more hens, collect eggs easier, and kept waste material contained. However, animal welfare suffered as a result. Today, caged hens are all subjected to cramped conditions, but some have been given more space over the years and environmental enrichment. The majority of egg-laying hens in the U.S. are battery hens. This means that they are caged and are allocated the equivalent space of one piece of 8.5 by 11-inch paper. One grade up from this are barns, which house hundreds of chickens. They have slightly more space and are technically not caged birds, but they don't have access to sunlight, grass, or fresh air. Their environment is artificial, but there is some enrichment, such as perches and nest boxes. Only some free-range hens have the ability to touch grass and see sunlight. They sometimes have access to outdoor space, which enriches their lives massively. Iowa, Ohio, and Indiana produce the most eggs in the U.S., and consumers are becoming more aware and more concerned about the welfare of agricultural animals. There is a growing demand for cage-free poultry meat and eggs. In 2021, almost 30% of eggs produced in the U.S. were from cage-free hens. This percentage is likely to rise over the coming years as farmers try to fulfill the concerns and demands of their consumers. The majority of turkeys are also housed indoors in environmentally controlled sheds. They are also generally overcrowded with little enrichment for their needs. They typically take 14 to 18 weeks to reach slaughter weight. Minnesota, North Carolina, and Arkansas are America's biggest turkey producers. In America, poultry farmers are rarely completely independent. Only a handful of companies control the U.S. poultry market. This is largely dominated by two giants in the industry, Tyson Foods and JBS USA. They own most of the production line from the feed, the hatcheries, the transportation, and the slaughterhouses. They even pay for on-farm medical expenses. This gives the farmers very little say in what they do. Their job is to run their farms as efficiently as possible to make as much profit as possible. There have been concerns over the record-breaking profits made by these companies with little or no pay rise for the farmers themselves. The idea for companies to own poultry production in order to control it began in the 1960s. Big companies also owned the poultry farms as well as everything else in the supply chain. But it didn't take long for them to realize that farming is a big risk. Most of them found that the farm was the least profitable part of the whole supply chain and contracted out the farm. Since then, they have kept control of the other processes, which gives them large profits with minimal risk. So why is North America so successful at producing poultry? The amount of chicken produced and consumed in the U.S. has been growing since the 1940s. It surpassed pork availability in 1996 and beef in 2010. The U.S. have become world leaders in poultry production due to a few factors. Firstly, they are able to grow the poultry feed themselves without the cost of importing it. This primarily consists of soybean protein and corn, which grows well in the States. Did you know we have a video about soybean production as well? You can watch it here. Secondly, they have some of the best genetically improved poultry in the world. They have managed to breed the most efficient birds in order to use as little feed as possible before the chickens or turkeys reach slaughter weight. These key factors, along with the public's growing desire for chicken meat, have caused the American poultry market to explode. It is hugely important to the economy of the country. The poultry industry provides employment for millions of people in North America, from farmers and processors to distributors and retailers. The popularity of such an affordable source of protein has seen poultry production rise significantly since the Second World War. At the time, most of the beef and pork was used for America's troops and allies. This was when poultry became popular in the United States as farmers saw a gap in the market and a potential to fill the nation's needs for a source of animal protein. Since then, there has been no stopping the rise in poultry production and consumption, in particular chicken. Sales of fresh chicken meat in the U.S. exceed $13 billion each year. Turkey exports amount to over 550 million pounds worth of meat. Over two-thirds of America's exported turkeys are shipped to Mexico. 20% of turkey that is exported globally comes from the U.S. This amounts to $287 million. The U.S. also exports a lot of its chicken. Over 7 billion pounds worth of broiler meat was exported from the States, which equates to almost $38 billion. There are monthly and yearly fluctuations in egg prices. In 2022, they reached a high of just over $5 per dozen and a low of $1.20. Farmers have blamed the avian flu outbreak for a rise in egg prices, but the margins they gained from this price inflation cannot be entirely down to the disease. The cost of feed and labor have risen over 2022 and into 2023, which all have a knock-on effect for what the consumer pays. Although poultry farming provides a valuable and relatively cheap protein source for millions of people, it is not without its criticism. In less economically developed countries, chickens are reared by smallholders and subsistence farmers. In the U.S., however, it has turned into mass production where thousands of birds are reared in a single shed or a unit at a time. In just under 60 years, broiler production in the U.S. has shot up 1,400%. This incredible rise in production has seen the emergence of factory-style farms. The rise from 580 million broilers in the 1950s to over 9 billion today has resulted in a dramatic decrease in broiler producers. Small farms have been squeezed out to make way for the more efficient, more profitable super farms. And where chicken farming was once spread across 1 million nationwide farms, it now only resides in just 15 states. With such a rapid increase in production, environmental measures have struggled to keep up. Waste, which comprises mostly feces and soiled litter, is spread on surrounding fields as manure. If this is done excessively, then runoff from rainwater can make its way into nearby water systems. This can wreak havoc on water bodies and their ecosystems. If this is managed properly and animal density is limited, then the environmental impact can be minimized. Although these factory-style farms have grown through consumer demand, animal welfare and the environment have both suffered as a result. But there are ways of improving the lives of the animals that are grown to feed us, as well as protect the environment on which we all depend. If we farm in an environmentally and sustainable way, then we can go a long way to achieving this. Australia is a minor producer of goat meat in the world, but it is the biggest exporter, and millions of people rely on its goat meat industry. It accounts for over a third of the global goat meat exports, And although it only produces 0.4% of the global goat meat supply, it is the biggest exporter of goat meat in the world. China is by far the biggest producer, producing 38% of the meat globally, but keeping the vast majority for its own domestic consumption. In 2020, Australia produced 15,500 tons of goat meat, the majority of which was exported to the United States, South Korea, and Taiwan. In fact, almost two-thirds was shipped to the States, where the Latino population are particularly fond of the meat. This export alone amounted to about 90 million Australian dollars. Australia has about 2.3 million feral goats, which are used for meat. This compares to 1 billion globally. Each year, just over 1 million of these Australian rangeland goats are sent for slaughter. There is less of a demand for goat meat domestically, with 80% of all that's produced being shipped abroad. This is largely due to an uncertainty and unfamiliarity around the meat and how to cook it. But goat farming is an attractive industry for Australian farmers due to the high value of the meat. Its value has increased over the past few years, and it reached a record high price in 2020, fetching a price of 820 cents per kilogram of meat, which is higher than both beef and lamb. And in 2021, that figure rose again. So why is goat farming so big in Australia? With the demand in goat meat only increasing globally, Australian goat farmers are growing with it. Farmers are turning to goat farming because of the resilient nature of the animals and their ability to cope with the harsh Australian climate. Victoria and Queensland are the biggest producers of goats in Australia. With a rise in goat farming interests, there has been an increase in production plants to keep up with the demand. In Western Australia, a 7,000% increase in goat production followed the reopening of a production plant in the state. With the growing interest in the industry, how are goats farmed in Australia? 95% of goats in Australia are produced in the southern rangelands, with approximately 70% in western New South Wales. The rangelands are characterized by low and sporadic rainfall, arid soil, and little to no arable farming. But Australia has developed the rangeland goat, which is well suited to the conditions. Originally from Europe, these goats have now adapted to life in an inhospitable environment. They are tough and hardy. The feral goat population has skyrocketed. The first few that were brought to mainland Australia, along with the early settlers, escaped and have been surviving in the harsh conditions ever since. Australians can muster or catch these goats and sell them to the abattoir. It requires very little management costs, only the ability to round up the herds and pen them for a short time before they are shipped off to slaughter. Some use dogs and quad bikes, others use helicopters. Many farmers are turning to this method of farming as it is highly lucrative at the moment, and demand for goat meat remains very high. The adaptation to the rangeland environment means that these goats can maintain high fertility even in dry climates, often giving birth to multiples rather than singles. This keeps their population numbers high. Those that are caught and kept for farmers to begin their own goat farms require relatively little maintenance. Improvements in their management over the years has resulted in increased carcass weight, quality, and consistency. Because of the methods used, goat farming has relatively low startup costs. As long as water is provided and plenty of feed, they require relatively little in terms of maintenance. They are naturally resistant to a range of diseases and don't need to be sheared like sheep. They eat a wider variety of feed than other livestock, which means that farmers are less susceptible to fluctuations in feed prices. When it comes to the sale of goats, they are simpler than other animals too. Goat meat fetches the same price per kilo regardless of the animal. It doesn't matter whether it's from a billy goat, nanny goat, 10-year-old, or a 1-year-old. There is a blanket price for goat meat across Australia. The same can't be said for other animals like sheep, which when it comes to slaughter are penalized for being too light, too heavy, or too old. Installing infrastructure is one of the main startup costs. Goats can jump sheep fencing and crawl underneath it. They need sturdy, high, barbed wire fences which can cost a significant amount to set up. On top of this, they are quite destructive in their appetite. They will both graze and browse, and have been blamed for a loss in biodiversity and deterioration of grasslands. As such, it is often recommended that farmers farm goats in rotation, allowing fields to heal and regrow between grazing. After being sent to the abattoir, goat carcasses are transported abroad. Almost 99% of them are exported as frozen whole carcasses. So, with the growing trade in goat meat for Australians, what support is available for those who want to take the plunge into this lucrative industry? The government is recognizing that goat farming contributes considerably to the Australian economy, and it provides an income for a growing number of people. As such, they are plowing money into goat farming with the hope of optimizing its production. Meat and Livestock Australia have teamed up with the University of Queensland to conduct a $3.7 million research project into goat production. The project aims to gather data on goat farming and use this to improve goat reproduction, growth, welfare, and production within Australia's herds. The New South Wales government has recently plowed $1.2 million into goat farming. Its aim is to try to modernize and standardize goat farming across the state. It will improve biosecurity in the production system and aim to improve reproduction, grazing management, genetics, and animal health. Just like all industries, goat farming and goat meat production has its challenges. What are these, and what can be done about them? As is the case with most agricultural industries, goat farming is reliant on the climate. Recently, Australia has suffered droughts which severely affected goat production. But the goat herds have bounced back and are on the rise again. There have since been favorable conditions with ample rainfall, which has really helped the industry recover. But even when drought struck and numbers were down and prices increased, the demand for goat meat never let up. At the moment, goat production in Australia is highly volatile and seasonal. It is hoped that with an increase in investment and by standardizing the industry somewhat, there will be less volatility across the production line. There is also a drive to try and encourage Australians to consume goat meat at home. But this can be challenging in a nation of sheep lovers. In fact, Australians consume the second greatest amount of lamb per capita in the world, second only to Kazakhstan. It may be a simple change in the wording associated with Australia's abundant herd of goats. Previously, they were referred to as feral goats, but the meat industry has now changed that to free-roaming rangeland goats. This title certainly has more appeal. Despite being a highly nutritious protein source with a delicious lamb-like flavor, this lean meat is unpopular with the general public. Other parts of the world, like parts of Asia and the Caribbean, eat goat regularly, and it is even considered a delicacy to some. But cooking goat meat lends itself to long, slow-cooking methods. Barbecuing the meat for a few minutes, like beef or lamb, doesn't work so well. The meat is less fatty than lamb and can become tough if not cooked properly. Australians are world-renowned for their love of barbecue, but goat meat isn't the right type of meat to grill in this way. Some of Australia's butchers, however, are beginning to see a rise in their goat meat sales as more people are tempted to sample the different cuts of meat and experiment with exotic cuisine. Many Australians are open to consuming goat's milk and cheese, but goat meat is taking a little longer to reach the dinner table. If Australians view wintertime as a time for slow, wet cooking methods used to cook goat stews much in the same way that springtime is associated with lamb, then goat meat could become a staple seasonal food. As we delve into the history of the wild hog in America, we uncover a story that is both fascinating and complex. These animals, also known as feral pigs or wild boars, were not originally native to the United States. Rather, they were brought over from Europe by early colonizers in the 1500s. These colonizers had several reasons for bringing hogs to America. One of the primary reasons was for food. Hogs were a valuable source of protein that could be raised relatively easily and provide a sustainable source of meat for the colonizers. In addition, hogs were known for their adaptability to new environments and ability to forage for food, making them a valuable resource for early settlers. Hogs were also used for hunting purposes, as they were often released into the wild to breed and establish populations that could later be hunted for sport. Today, wild hogs can be found in almost every state in the U.S., with Texas having the largest population. There are currently an estimated 6 million wild hogs in the United States, with over 2.6 million wild hogs in Texas alone. These animals have adapted to their new environment and can thrive in a variety of habitats, from forests to marshes. Wild hogs, also known as feral pigs, are a menace to many. They cause damage to crops, spread diseases, and can even pose a threat to humans and other animals. Attempts have been made to control their population over the years, from trapping and hunting to aerial gunning, but to no avail. These highly adaptable creatures can survive in a variety of environments, from forests and grasslands to wetlands. As omnivores, they will feed on a wide range of food sources, including plants, insects, small animals, and carrion. Their keen sense of smell and nighttime activity make them efficient foragers, using their strong snouts to root through the ground and locate food. Hogs play a significant role in the food chain, both as prey and predator. They are a primary food source for many large carnivores such as wolves, bears, and big cats. But they are also opportunistic predators themselves, hunting small animals such as insects, rodents, and reptiles. Wild boars, the male counterpart of wild sows, will roam their territory looking for females in heat. Once a wild boar finds a receptive sow, he will inseminate her with his semen. After the wild sow becomes pregnant, she will seek out a safe and secure area to give birth to her litter of piglets. Unlike domesticated hogs, wild sows will often leave their litter of piglets to forage for food, returning to nurse them periodically. This allows the sow to feed herself and ensure the survival of the litter. Once the piglets are weaned, they will join their mother and other members of the sounder, the group of hogs, in foraging for food and seeking shelter from predators. Sounders can range in size from a few individuals to over 20 individuals, with females and their offspring typically forming the core of the group. Male wild boars are typically solitary, but may join a sounder during the breeding season. Understanding the behavior and social structure of wild hogs is essential to managing their population effectively. Despite numerous attempts to control their numbers, the resilience and adaptability of these creatures continue to pose a significant challenge to those seeking to manage their population. As the population of wild hogs has grown, so has the need for domesticated hogs for meat production. Today, hog farming is a major industry in the United States, with millions of hogs raised each year. However, breeding hogs for commercial purposes is a complex process that requires careful attention to genetics, nutrition, and animal welfare. So, let's explore how hog breeding has evolved over time to meet the demands of the market. Domesticated hogs are bred under controlled conditions, and their breeding practices are different from wild hogs. Domesticated hogs are raised for their meat and are often bred for specific characteristics that are desirable for meat production, such as size, growth rate, and meat quality. In contrast to wild hogs, which mate naturally in the wild, domesticated hogs are often bred through artificial insemination or selective breeding. Artificial insemination allows breeders to control the genetics of the offspring and can help to produce healthier and more productive pigs. Selective breeding involves choosing the best animals to breed based on certain traits, such as meat quality or size, with the goal of improving the overall quality of the herd. Domesticated hogs generally have higher litter sizes than wild hogs. On average, a sow can produce a litter of 8 to 12 piglets, but some well-managed breeding programs can result in even higher litter sizes. Hogs play a significant role in the ecosystem as both wild and domesticated animals. In the wild, they are considered to be ecosystem engineers, meaning that they significantly alter their environment to the benefit of other species. For example, hogs root in the soil for food, which helps to increase soil aeration, turnover, and nutrient availability. This can be beneficial for other plant species, and even for soil-dwelling animals. However, when wild hogs are introduced to non-native environments, they can cause significant ecological damage. As such, their presence in the United States has had significant negative impacts. Wild boars cause over $2 billion in damage to crops and property each year, with damage to agricultural crops accounting for approximately $1.5 billion of that total. In some areas, such as Texas, wild boars have been estimated to cause over 50% damage to crops like corn and soybeans. These voracious animals have a seemingly insatiable appetite and can quickly devastate fields of corn, soybeans, wheat, and other crops. They root up the soil, damaging the root systems of plants and making it difficult for crops to grow. Additionally, they trample and consume crops, leaving behind a trail of destruction that can take years to recover from. Hogs can also damage irrigation systems, which can cause water to be distributed unevenly or lead to leaks that waste water. Moreover, their rooting and wallowing behavior can cause soil erosion, which can lead to sediment runoff and water pollution. All of these factors can have a negative impact on the environment and the surrounding ecosystems, and ultimately affect the availability and quality of food produced. The issue of wild hog overpopulation in the United States has prompted action from various government agencies and organizations. One approach taken by some states has been to allow hunting and trapping of wild boars. This approach has been effective in reducing wild boar populations in some areas, but it can also be challenging due to the animal's intelligence, adaptability, and nocturnal behavior. Hunters and trappers must be skilled and experienced to successfully catch wild boars, and they may need specialized equipment such as traps and dogs trained to track and hold wild hogs. Many states require hunters to report their wild boar harvest to track population trends and determine the effectiveness of hunting and trapping efforts. Fencing is another commonly used method to prevent wild boars from accessing agricultural areas. High-tensile electric fencing is the most effective type of fencing for this purpose, as it is able to withstand the strength of wild boars. The height and strength of the fence are important factors in determining its effectiveness, as wild boars are strong and can jump over low fences. Therefore, fences should be at least 3 feet high and made of sturdy materials. It is also worth noting that wild boars carry and spread diseases that can be transmitted to domestic livestock and even humans. One such disease is swine fever that can cause severe illness in domestic pigs and has led to devastating outbreaks in various parts of the world. The spread of these diseases is a major concern for farmers and public health officials, as it can lead to significant economic losses and public health risks. Therefore, it is important to take measures to control the wild boar population and prevent the spread of these diseases. Some states have implemented programs to control wild boar populations through fertility control methods. This involves administering contraceptive agents to female wild hogs to prevent reproduction, which can help reduce populations over time. However, this approach can be difficult to implement on a large scale, as it requires capturing and treating individual animals, and may not be effective in areas with large and dispersed populations. As we come to the end of our journey exploring the wild hog, one thing is clear: there is no one-size-fits-all solution to the wild hog problem in the United States. But a combination of approaches may help manage and reduce wild boar populations and mitigate the damage they cause to crops, native wildlife, and public health. These animals have proven to be incredibly resilient and adaptable in the face of changing environments and human activity. Whether we view them as a valuable resource or a pest, there is no denying that these animals have left an indelible mark on the landscape of America. The fishing industry has long been a significant driver of Canada's economy, contributing billions of dollars in revenue each year. At the forefront of this industry is the lobster sector, generating an estimated worth of over $484 million, a large portion of which comes from exporting lobsters worldwide. This succulent crustacean is not only an integral part of Canadian cuisine, but has also gained an international reputation, becoming a highly sought-after commodity. Its rich taste and tender texture have made it one of the most valuable catches in Canada, contributing billions of dollars to the economy each year. In 2021 alone, Canada exported 95.5 million kilograms of lobsters, worth over $2 billion CAD, with the United States being the largest market, importing nearly 80% of all exported lobsters. But it's not just the US. Countries like China, Japan, and South Korea are also major fans, importing significant quantities of lobsters every year. As we explore the fascinating world of Canadian lobster fishing, one question looms large. Just how do the Canadian fish farmers reel in enough lobsters to generate a whopping $484 million in revenue each year? Lobster fishing has been a part of Canadian history and culture for centuries, dating back to the early days of European settlement. The first documented catch of lobsters in Canada was in the 1600s, and it is believed that Indigenous peoples in the region were catching lobsters long before that. Today, lobster fishing remains a vital industry in Canada, particularly in the Atlantic provinces. The three main provinces where Canadian fishermen catch lobsters are Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island, and New Brunswick, which together account for the majority of the country's lobster catches. In these provinces, lobster fishing typically takes place between late fall and early spring, as this is when lobsters are most abundant and of the highest quality. Despite the value of the Canadian lobster industry, lobsters are not typically farmed in aquaculture operations like certain other fish species. This is because lobsters require very specific conditions to thrive, including clean water, appropriate temperatures, and access to the right type of food. Although attempts have been made to farm lobsters, the challenges associated with reproducing their natural habitat in captivity have made it difficult to do so on a large scale. Additionally, the unique flavor and texture of wild-caught lobsters, which is largely a result of their natural habitat and diet, make them highly valued by consumers and preferred over farmed lobsters, which can be more uniform in flavor and texture. Setting up custom-made, wire mesh lobster traps is the first step in the lobster harvesting process. The lobsters are captured in these traps while water may still travel through. It is truly remarkable how carefully these traps are designed to avoid harming the lobsters or the ecosystem of the sea. The lobsters may enter and exit the traps without incurring major harm or endangering the ecosystem. The benefits, however, go beyond that. By building the traps correctly, fishermen can reduce the likelihood of bycatch or the unintended capture of species other than those that were intended. This is especially important given the precarious status of many marine ecosystems throughout the world. This method is, thus, a delicate balance between meeting the demand for these delectable crustaceans and protecting the marine ecosystem for future generations. Once set, the traps are left in the water for up to 48 hours. Fishermen keep a watchful eye to make sure everything is running smoothly. Losing or damaging a trap is a costly mistake for the fishermen and a potential threat to the marine ecosystem. After spending between 24 and 48 hours in the traps, the lobsters are finally retrieved from the water and transported to shore. This is where the real work begins. To ensure that the lobsters remain alive and healthy during transport, specialized boats are used. These boats are equipped with tanks or holding areas that are filled with chilled seawater to maintain the lobster's appropriate temperature. The tanks may also have aeration systems to make sure that the water is properly oxygenated, creating a comfortable and healthy environment for the lobsters. It is important to note that lobsters are highly valued for their meat, and their flavor and texture are best when they are alive and fresh. When a lobster dies, the meat begins to decompose rapidly, affecting both its taste and texture. It is therefore crucial for lobsters to remain alive until they are sold and cooked to ensure the best possible taste and texture for consumers. Additionally, keeping lobsters alive until they are sold ensures that customers are getting the freshest product possible, which is an important factor for many seafood consumers. Once the lobsters reach the shore, they go through a sorting process based on size and weight, which is essential for a sustainable fishery. Only lobsters that meet the minimum size requirements are kept for sale, while smaller ones are carefully returned to the water. The minimum size requirements for lobsters vary depending on the region and the specific regulations in place. In general, these regulations are designed to ensure that only mature lobsters are harvested and that smaller lobsters are allowed to grow and contribute to the overall health of the population. In Canada, for example, the minimum legal size for a lobster is typically around 72 millimeters, 2.83 inches in carapace length. However, these regulations can change from year to year depending on the state of the lobster population and other factors. To keep track of the lobsters during transport and sorting, fishermen use a variety of methods. In some cases, each lobster may be tagged or marked in some way so that it can be identified later. This can be done using a variety of techniques, including physical tags or markings, electronic tagging, or even using different colors of dye to mark the lobsters. In other cases, fishermen may simply rely on their own experience and knowledge of the lobsters to sort them quickly and efficiently. Experienced fishermen can often assess the size and weight of a lobster with just a quick glance, allowing them to sort large volumes of lobsters in a short amount of time. Once the lobsters have been sorted, they are placed in holding tanks filled with seawater until they are ready for transport. Canada is known for producing some of the highest quality lobsters in the world, and the industry takes great care to ensure that this reputation is maintained. In fact, the Canadian lobster industry has a well-established certification program called the Marine Stewardship Council Certification. This program recognizes fisheries that are committed to sustainable fishing practices and ensuring that their products are of high quality. By meeting the strict standards of the MSC, Canadian lobster fishermen can ensure that their catch is not only sustainable, but also meets the highest quality standards. The lobster industry in Canada not only serves as a source of revenue, but also a source of employment for many Canadians. With an estimated 50,000 individuals working in the industry across the country, the jobs provided by the industry are crucial for many rural communities in Canada. These jobs offer stable employment opportunities and often provide competitive wages. In fact, according to the Fisheries Council of Canada, the average salary for a lobster fisherman in Canada is around $65,000 per year, making it a well-paying occupation. Despite the many economic benefits of the lobster industry, there are concerns about its environmental impact. Overfishing and the destruction of lobster habitats have led to declines in lobster populations in some areas. To combat these concerns, Canadian fish farmers are implementing sustainable fishing practices and supporting habitat restoration efforts. Additionally, many fish farmers participate in lobster hatchery programs to ensure a stable supply of juvenile lobsters. In conclusion, the Canadian lobster industry is a vital sector of the country's economy, providing employment for thousands of people and contributing billions of dollars annually. The industry's success is a result of the efficient and sustainable harvesting methods used by Canadian fishers, as well as their commitment to maintaining the highest standards of quality. While environmental concerns continue to be a challenge, the industry's future is bright with the continued implementation of sustainable practices and habitat restoration initiatives. With these efforts, the Canadian lobster industry can continue to thrive for generations to come. Today, Denmark stands as a remarkable example in the world of pig farming, as the country is home to over 5,000 pig farms. More astonishing, perhaps, is the statistic that Denmark is home to more pigs than people. These farms collectively nurture millions of pigs every year, making a significant contribution to the country's economy. The impact of Danish pork extends beyond its borders as it finds its way to dinner tables across the globe. This global reach has established Denmark as a powerhouse in the international meat trade. Tracing the roots of Denmark's pig farming reveals a journey that began centuries ago with small-scale traditional farming. Over time, this small Nordic nation has steadily risen to prominence. Historical records indicate that in the early 19th century, the number of pigs was relatively modest, primarily serving local communities. However, as demand grew, both domestically and internationally, Denmark's approach to pig farming began to transform. By the mid-20th century, the numbers had surged significantly, with statistics showing a tenfold increase in pig populations compared to a century earlier. This exponential growth mirrored the advancements in farming techniques and animal husbandry practices. The evolution was marked not just by the increasing number of pigs, but also by the sophisticated methods employed to raise them. At the heart of this transformation lies a unique set of challenges, particularly in managing the expanse of free-range farms that are spread across thousands of acres. Danish farmers have skillfully navigated issues like disease control, which becomes increasingly complex in open environments. For instance, in tackling diseases, the adoption of rotational grazing has become widespread. This practice, now implemented on over 70% of free-range farms, allows sections of land to recover, reducing the spread of diseases by a notable 40% compared to traditional methods. Additionally, the introduction of natural supplements has seen a 30% reduction in antibiotic use. The Danish government, recognizing the importance of these practices, has provided substantial support. Financial aid has been directed towards approximately 60% of these farms, facilitating the adoption of sustainable methods and ensuring the longevity and success of Denmark's pig farming industry. These changes are exemplified by the story of Anders, a third-generation farmer from South Denmark. Anders' journey is a reflection of the larger shift in Danish pig farming. He recalls his grandfather's traditional methods of pig rearing, but with the growing demand for ethically produced meat, Anders expanded his farm with a keen focus on animal welfare. Transitioning to free-range farming brought its unique challenges. To mitigate this, Anders adopted rotational grazing, allowing land to recover and reducing disease spread. He also invested in natural supplements to enhance the immunity of his pigs, a practice less common in conventional farming. Another inspiring story with this movement is that of Jensen's farm, a beacon of success in the free-range pig industry. Jensen's farm began its journey over a decade ago when Peter Jensen, a third-generation farmer, made the bold decision to shift from traditional to free-range farming. His vision was driven by a commitment to animal welfare and environmental sustainability. Today, the farm is home to over 20,000 pigs that roam freely. Peter reminisces about the early days, filled with learning curves and challenges. His dedication to creating an ecosystem where pigs could thrive has not only improved the health and happiness of the animals, but also the quality of the pork. This has led to a surge in demand, both locally and internationally. Jensen's farm now produces twice the amount of pork than in its pre-free-range days, with exports stretching across Europe. Initially, skeptics perceived the shift towards free-range farming as a financial gamble, fraught with higher costs and greater risks. However, as consumer demand for ethically produced pork surged, these pioneering farms began to find their economic footing. The transition gradually revealed its long-term viability. This shift in farming practices, while rooted in ethical and environmental concerns, has proven to be not just a morally sound choice, but an economically wise one, demonstrating that what's beneficial for animal welfare and the planet can also be profitable. The transformation of the pig farming industry began as a whisper in the early 2000s. From a few hundred farms adopting free-range standards, the movement grew exponentially. By the mid-2010s, over 30% of Danish pig farms had embraced these methods, a striking increase from just a decade earlier. Pigs, which had previously been confined to cramped indoor spaces, now roamed freely in outdoor paddocks. This significant increase in free-range areas meant that over 2 million pigs in Denmark were experiencing a stark contrast to their previous living conditions. Each free-range pig, from the moment of birth, is nurtured under vigilant care, differing markedly from their counterparts in intensive farming systems. Unlike the accelerated growth cycles often seen in conventional rearing, these pigs develop at a natural pace, aligning more closely with their innate growth patterns. During the summer months, the pigs engage in mud wallowing, an activity crucial for their skin health and temperature regulation. This behavioral need is quantitatively met in the free-range settings, very different from the limitations faced in confined setups. In colder months, they have access to shelters. These shelters are a blend of simplicity and functionality, offering warmth and protection without confining the animals. The impact of dynamic interaction between the pigs and their environments on the pig's well-being was substantial. Studies revealed that free-range pigs exhibited 40% fewer health issues compared to their counterparts in conventional settings. Moreover, the mortality rate in free-range farms dropped by 15%. This improvement in animal welfare did not go unnoticed. Consumers, increasingly conscious of ethical farming practices, began to show a marked preference for pork from free-range farms. This change in consumer behavior was reflected in sales figures, with a 25% rise in the demand for free-range pork products nationally. The export of Danish free-range pork saw an impressive growth of 18%. The environmental benefits were equally remarkable. The implementation of free-range practices has led to a 20% reduction in water usage on these farms. By allowing pigs to roam and forage in natural environments, there is a lesser dependence on water-intensive feeding practices common in conventional setups. Furthermore, the natural behaviors of the pigs, such as rooting and foraging, contributed positively to soil health. This ecological synergy resulted in a 10% increase in soil fertility in areas surrounding free-range farms. The adoption of rotational grazing techniques further enhanced these benefits, promoting biodiversity and reducing soil erosion, reducing the need for chemical fertilizers, which have been cut down by an impressive 30%. In Denmark, farming technology has been designed to enhance the natural experience of free-range pig farming. About 75% of Danish farms now employ automated feeding systems, ensuring optimal nutrition for the pigs while reducing waste by approximately 20%. Advanced health monitoring systems, adopted by over 60% of farms, have led to a notable 30% decrease in disease incidence. Additionally, technological advancements have enabled better land management. Approximately 80% of free-range farms utilize GPS-guided machinery, minimizing soil compaction and preserving the integrity of the free-range environment. This precision farming approach has resulted in a remarkable 25% increase in land efficiency, allowing more space for the pigs to roam freely. As our journey through Denmark's vast free-range pig farms comes to a close, we're left with a vivid image of a sustainable future taking shape. These farms, stretching across lush green fields, are more than just a source of high-quality pork. They're a testament to Denmark's commitment to ethical and environmentally conscious farming. It's a story of transformation, where respect for animal welfare and the environment leads to a harmonious balance. One can't help but feel optimistic about what the future of farming can hold when guided by the principles of sustainability and respect for nature. Beekeeping, a practice with ancient origins dating back thousands of years, plays a pivotal role in our ecosystems and agriculture. In Europe alone, there are over 17.5 million managed honeybee hives, underscoring the continent's significance in the global beekeeping landscape. These millions of hives contribute to an estimated annual honey production of over 200,000 tons, highlighting the substantial economic impact of this age-old practice. Europe's diverse climates and rich flora foster a unique tapestry of beekeeping traditions, where the number of hives and the scale of production vary markedly across different regions. This video delves deep into the heart of European apiculture, unraveling the complex and number-driven world of beekeeping, where millions of honeybees are not only nurtured and harvested, but also form the backbone of ecological balance and agricultural productivity. Beekeeping in Europe has deep historical roots. Initially, beekeeping began as a small-scale practice for harvesting honey and beeswax, primarily for food and candle making. Historical records suggest that in medieval Europe, the number of hives significantly expanded, with monasteries playing a pivotal role. These religious institutions not only increased hive numbers, but also became centers of beekeeping knowledge and innovation. By the late medieval period, it is estimated that larger monasteries managed dozens of hives each, significantly contributing to the understanding of bee biology. This rich history is manifested in today's European landscape, where traditional beehives in rural areas stand as a testament to a practice that has evolved and expanded over centuries. As Europe transitioned through the Renaissance and into the Industrial Revolution, beekeeping underwent significant transformations. One of the most revolutionary innovations was the introduction of the movable frame hive in the 19th century. This innovation alone led to a substantial increase in honey yields. For example, average honey production per hive increased by over 50% in the decades following its adoption. The movable frame design also allowed the healthier bee colonies by facilitating better disease management and hive inspection processes. Statistical data from the late 19th century show a marked decrease in colony losses, with some regions reporting up to a 30% reduction in annual hive mortality rates. These technological advancements mirrored broader changes in agricultural practices and societal needs, propelling beekeeping into a more efficient and scalable practice. By the early 20th century, the number of hives in Europe had grown significantly, with estimates indicating a growth of up to 70% in certain countries, largely attributable to these innovations. Currently, Europe is home to approximately 17.5 million beehives, a number that reflects both the enduring legacy and the evolving nature of the practice. Modern European beekeeping is not just surviving, it's innovating. The adoption of technological advancements, such as automated honey extractors and computerized hive monitoring systems, has increased efficiency and productivity. For instance, automated systems have been shown to increase honey extraction rates by up to 30%, while advanced monitoring has reduced labor costs and improved colony health surveillance. Today's European beekeepers are increasingly adopting sustainable practices, such as organic beekeeping, which has grown by approximately 20% in the last 5 years. These sustainable practices are crucial, not only for the health of bee populations, but also for the environment, contributing to ecological balance and biodiversity conservation. Beekeeping in Europe exhibits remarkable diversity, mirrored in the numbers that characterize each region's practice. In the warm Mediterranean climates of Spain and Italy, beekeeping thrives due to favorable conditions. Spain boasts over 2.5 million hives, contributing significantly to Europe's honey production with renowned multifloral and rosemary honeys. Italian beekeepers, managing more than 1 million hives, specialize in artisanal honey varieties such as acacia and chestnut. In contrast, northern European countries like Germany and the United Kingdom, home to approximately 870,000 and 247,000 hives respectively, adapt their beekeeping techniques to cooler climates. These regions collectively house around 9 billion bees, emphasizing the scale of beekeeping efforts required for hive survival and productivity in colder environments. German beekeepers are known for their precision and efficiency, a necessity given the challenging climate, while British apiarists focus on preserving native bee species, a critical factor in maintaining regional biodiversity. Eastern European countries like Poland and Hungary showcase a fusion of traditional and modern beekeeping practices. Poland, with around 1.5 million hives and managing approximately 40 million bees, is celebrated for its forest and heather honeys. Hungary, harboring about 760,000 hives, is distinguished for its production of acacia honey, leveraging the extensive acacia forests that dot the country. In the harsher climates of Scandinavia, countries like Sweden, despite challenges, have developed robust beekeeping systems. Sweden's approximately 97,000 hives, tending to nearly 4 million bees, often use advanced insulation methods like polystyrene hives, a testament to the innovation required for beekeeping in colder regions. Each of these areas, with their specific hive and bee counts, not only contributes significantly to Europe's beekeeping mosaic, but also underlines the importance of regional adaptation in maintaining the health and productivity of bee populations. In analyzing the ecological impact of honeybees, the numbers speak volumes. Honeybees are responsible for the pollination of approximately 80% of all flowering plants, including over 70 of the top 100 human food crops, which supply about 90% of the world's nutrition. In Europe, bees play a crucial role in the agricultural sector, contributing significantly to the economy. Studies estimate that the economic value of bee pollination in Europe amounts to billions of euros annually, underlining their critical role in food production and security. This vital pollination service ensures the successful reproduction of a wide range of plants, essential not only for human nutrition, but also for maintaining biodiversity. In terms of ecosystem services, the role of bees extends far beyond pollination. Their activities support the growth of wild plant communities, which in turn provide habitats for diverse wildlife species. European beekeepers today confront a myriad of challenges, quantifiable in their impact and demanding in their scope. One of the most pressing issues is the loss of hives due to pests, particularly the varroa mite. Statistical studies indicate that untreated hives can experience up to a 90% collapse rate due to this pest. The economic repercussions are significant. The European honey market, valued at over 600 million euros, faces potential annual revenue losses in the tens of millions due to these declines. Climate change presents another formidable challenge, with erratic weather patterns influencing honey production and bee health, resulting in up to a 15 to 20% decrease in honey yields in certain regions. This ecological imbalance not only affects honey production, but also disrupts pollination services, vital for crops that contribute to the EU's agricultural output, valued at hundreds of billions of euros. Beekeepers are thus compelled to adapt their practices, invest in mitigation strategies, and collaborate with scientific communities, incurring additional costs and labor, all in an effort to sustain their hives and the critical role they play in Europe's agriculture and ecosystems. Economic pressures also impact beekeeping in Europe. The competition from cheaper honey imports and counterfeit products has placed financial strain on local beekeepers, with some regions reporting up to a 25% decrease in market prices over the past decade. As we look towards the future of European beekeeping, current trends and statistical forecasts paint an intriguing picture. Emerging technologies in precision beekeeping, such as sensor-based hive monitoring, are predicted to significantly increase colony health monitoring efficiency, potentially reducing colony losses by up to 20%. The rise of urban beekeeping is also noteworthy, with the number of city-based hives expected to grow by 15% annually, integrating nature into urban settings. Meanwhile, sustainable practices like organic beekeeping are gaining momentum, with a projected increase of 30% in organic certified bee farms over the next decade. This shift underscores a growing market demand, where organic honey production is estimated to see a revenue increase of 25% in the coming years. These evolving trends, coupled with ongoing research indicating a potential 10% improvement in pollination efficiency through advanced beekeeping methods, suggest a future where European beekeeping not only thrives, but also plays a pivotal role in agricultural sustainability and biodiversity conservation. This documentary, by showcasing these quantitative aspects, underscores our interconnectedness with nature and highlights the crucial role of informed, data-driven practices in preserving the delicate balance of our ecosystem. In summary, European beekeeping's scale and impact are highlighted by striking statistics. Spain's 2.5 million hives, Italy's over 1 million, Germany's 870,000, and the UK's 247,000 showcase the industry's vastness. These countries, along with others, collectively manage billions of bees, crucial for pollination and biodiversity. Despite challenges like the Varroa mite and climate change, advancements in technology and a growing focus on sustainability are shaping the future of beekeeping. This blend of tradition and innovation, underpinned by significant numbers, underscores beekeeping's vital role in Europe's ecological, agricultural, and cultural tapestry. In the vast and diverse Australian outback, spanning over 2.5 million square miles of rugged terrain, lies a pivotal sector of agricultural production, Merino sheep farming. This region, known for its extreme climates ranging from arid deserts to cool highlands, supports over 60,000 farms and over 70 million Merino sheep, a figure that underscores the scale of this industry. Merino sheep, renowned for their exceptional wool, are responsible for a significant portion of Australia's wool exports. Annually, the country produces about 345,000 tons of raw wool, with a notable percentage of this coming from Merino sheep. This production contributes remarkably to the national economy, with the wool export sector alone generating revenues exceeding 3 billion Australian dollars each year. The merino wool industry, furthermore, supports tens of thousands of jobs across rural Australia, from farming and shearing to processing and exporting. These sheep have adapted remarkably to the challenging conditions of the outback, showcasing not just resilience, but thriving in environments with temperatures fluctuating between freezing cold and scorching heat. The wool produced here, known for its fine quality and softness, accounts for approximately 80% of the world's fine apparel wool, making Australia the leading exporter in this sector. The industry is not just a testament to the adaptability of the merino breed, but also to the scale of agricultural enterprise thriving in one of the world's most extreme environments. In the transformation of the merino breed in Australia, we witness a remarkable tale told through numbers, a testament to the skill and dedication of Australian farmers. This story begins in the late 18th century with the introduction of the merino sheep to Australian shores. Initially, these sheep were valued for their adaptability and quality wool, but key to this evolution has been the focus on enhancing wool quality through careful and strategic breeding practices. Australian farmers, over generations, have meticulously selected traits such as wool fineness, density, and length, leading to significant improvements in the quality of wool each sheep produces. Thanks to these breeding efforts, the numbers are telling. Detailed records indicate that average wool yield per sheep has increased by approximately 20% over the last 2 decades. The quality of the wool, measured in terms of fiber diameter and crimp, has seen an improvement of around 15%. Furthermore, the average wool fiber diameter has reduced over the years, making the wool softer and more luxurious, leading to a quality highly prized in global markets. Today, Australian merino wool is renowned for its superior fineness and strength, commanding a premium in international markets, a testament to the successful quantitative enhancements made by farmers in the breeding of this iconic breed. This focus on breeding has also yielded impressive production statistics. The average fleece weight per sheep has increased, a direct result of selective breeding aimed at enhancing wool yield without compromising quality. These advancements are not just about quantity. They represent a fine balance between maintaining the natural resilience of the sheep while optimizing their wool production capabilities. The impact of these efforts extends beyond the farms to the global stage. Australia, thanks to these breeding successes, has positioned itself as one of the world's leading wool producers, commanding a significant share of the global market. On average, merino sheep live for about 10 to 12 years, a span during which they contribute significantly to wool production. A single merino sheep can produce up to 9 to 11 pounds of wool per year, with this figure varying depending on age and health. The first shearing, typically occurring at around 6 to 7 months of age, yields lighter fleece, known as lamb's wool, which is highly valued for its softness. As they mature, the wool becomes denser and stronger. Across Australia's approximately 70,000 sheep farms, meticulous flock management is crucial. With an average flock size of about 3,000 sheep per farm, regular health checks, strategic breeding, and careful pasture management are key components of the life cycle management in these vast farming landscapes. The annual shearing of merino sheep is a critical operation, combining tradition with efficiency. Each year, skilled shearers harvest an impressive quantity of wool. On average, a merino sheep yields about 9 to 13 pounds of wool per shearing. With an estimated population of over 70 million merino sheep, the country produces approximately 761 million pounds of merino wool annually. The shearing process is not just about quantity. It's a meticulous task where speed and precision are essential. Experienced shearers can shear a sheep in just a few minutes, with top shearers averaging up to 200 sheep per day, ensuring the fleece is removed in one continuous piece for optimal quality. Following shearing, the wool undergoes a detailed sorting and grading process, where it is categorized based on quality indicators such as fiber diameter, length, and strength. The finest grades of merino wool, typically with fiber diameters ranging from 16 to 24 microns, are highly valued for their softness and are often earmarked for luxury fashion markets. This high-grade wool represents a significant portion of the overall wool yield, with top-quality fleeces weighing around 11 pounds each. After grading, the wool is scoured to remove impurities, losing about 50% of its weight in the process. The cleaned wool is then carded and spun, transforming approximately 380 million pounds of raw merino wool into high-quality yarn annually, ready for the global textile market. Merino sheep, now pivotal to Australia's agricultural landscape, were first introduced to the continent in the late 18th century by European settlers. Initially, the flock sizes were modest, with only a few hundred sheep imported. However, these numbers rapidly expanded, thanks to the merino's exceptional adaptability to the diverse Australian climate. By the early 19th century, the population had grown exponentially, reaching tens of thousands. This surge was a result of both natural reproduction and continued importation. The wool yield per sheep also saw significant improvement, with selective breeding programs initiated by Australian farmers contributing to this growth. By the mid-20th century, Australia's merino population had soared into the millions, making it one of the world's predominant wool producers. In confronting the unique challenges of merino sheep farming in the Australian outback, several key statistics stand out. The harsh and unpredictable climate, particularly the threat of drought, has been a major concern. Drought conditions occurring with increasing frequency have led to as much as a 30% reduction in pasture availability in some regions. This scarcity directly impacts sheep nutrition and wool quality. Additionally, merino sheep are susceptible to various pests and diseases, with prevalence rates of conditions like fly strike and foot rot affecting up to 15% of flocks annually, necessitating vigilant health management. Economically, the wool market experiences significant volatility. Price fluctuations of over 20% within a single season are not uncommon, directly impacting farmers' revenues. These challenges underscore the complexity and the resilience required in merino sheep farming, as farmers navigate environmental and market forces to sustain their livelihoods. In the arid Australian outback, sustainable farming practices have become crucial for the longevity of merino sheep farming. Australian farmers have adopted rotational grazing techniques, resulting in a measurable 20% reduction in soil erosion and a significant improvement in pasture quality. Water conservation efforts have been impactful, with rainwater harvesting and efficient irrigation techniques leading to a 30% decrease in water usage on average. Innovations in animal health management have led to a 15% reduction in common diseases like foot rot and fly strike, thanks to the implementation of proactive health checks and vaccinations. These practices not only enhance the overall health and productivity of the sheep, but also contribute to a 25% increase in wool quality, underscoring the tangible benefits of sustainable farming in the industry. Looking towards the future, merino sheep farming in Australia is poised for significant evolution, underscored by promising statistical forecasts and technological advancements. Analysts predict a steady increase in wool market growth, with projections indicating a rise in global demand for high-quality merino wool. This is expected to lead to a substantial increase in the value and volume of wool exports from Australia. Technologically, the integration of data-driven precision farming is anticipated to revolutionize farm practices. This includes the use of drones for flock monitoring, which could increase efficiency by up to 30%, and AI-driven breeding programs predicted to enhance wool quality by 20% over the next decade. Adaptation to climate change is also a key focus, with projections showing that implementation of advanced water conservation techniques could reduce water usage by as much as 40%. These changes reflect a dynamic sector where traditional practices are being augmented by innovative strategies, ensuring the sustainability and productivity of merino sheep farming in Australia for years to come. The story of the American bison, an iconic symbol of the Northern American wilderness, is a tale best told through numbers. Once the lords of the North American Great Plains, bison numbers were staggering in their abundance. Historical estimates suggest that there were between 30 to 60 million bison roaming freely across the continent in the 18th century. Unfortunately, the bison faced near extinction in the late 19th century, with their numbers dwindling to a precarious few hundred. Today, through concerted conservation efforts, the bison population has made a significant comeback, with approximately 100,000 individuals thriving in conservation herds across North America. The story of the bison's decline is a poignant example of how quickly and drastically human actions can affect wildlife populations and ecosystems. It sets the stage for understanding the significance of the bison's subsequent comeback and the efforts that were crucial in making this a reality. In the 19th century, the arrival of European settlers initiated a series of events that drastically altered the landscape and fate of the bison. The expansion of European settlements brought not only people, but also the railroad, a symbol of progress that paradoxically spelled doom for the bison. The Transcontinental Railroad, completed in the late 19th century, bisected the Great Plains, fragmenting the vast roaming grounds of the bison and disrupting their natural migratory patterns. As the railroad expanded, it facilitated easier access to the Great Plains for hunters. Bison hunting, once a sustainable practice by indigenous tribes, turned into a large-scale commercial enterprise. The U.S. government, in its efforts to control and relocate indigenous tribes, recognized the dependence of these tribes on bison. Policies were implemented that intentionally targeted bison herds to undermine the tribe's traditional way of life, forcing them into dependency on government aid and relocation to reservations. This strategy was part of a broader effort to open the West for settlement and to suppress the native population. The decimation of bison herds was both a consequence and a tool of this colonial expansion. By the late 1800s, the relentless hunting had its toll, decimating the bison population to the brink of extinction. With numbers dwindling to less than 1,000, this resulted in a decline rate that is among the most severe recorded for any species in modern history. The early 1900s marked the beginning of a remarkable turnaround. Spearheaded by conservationists, ranchers, and government entities, the first significant step was the establishment of the National Bison Range in 1908. This initiative provided a sanctuary for the remaining bison and became a cornerstone in their path to recovery. Around the same time, the American Bison Society, founded in 1905, began its mission to save the species from the brink of extinction. By the 1930s, these efforts started to bear fruit, with the bison numbers slowly but steadily growing. From a few hundred, the numbers rose to several thousand, signaling a hopeful future for the species. The post-World War II era ushered in a new phase in bison conservation. The focus expanded from purely conservation-led efforts to include private ranching. This shift was significant as it brought a new dimension to bison population growth. By the 1960s and 1970s, private herds began contributing significantly to the overall bison population, a trend that continues today. The 1990s witnessed another notable surge in the bison population, driven by increased public interest and the burgeoning commercial viability of bison ranching. This era saw the population reach around 30,000 by the end of the 20th century, a remarkable recovery from their near extinction just a century earlier. The establishment of the Intertribal Bison Cooperative in 1990 was a significant milestone, marking a confluence of conservation efforts and cultural restoration for Native American communities. Comprising 57 tribes, the cooperative not only bolstered bison numbers, but also reconnected indigenous communities with an integral part of their heritage. As of the latest data, the bison population in North America stands at over 500,000, with around 20,000 in conservation herds and the majority in private herds. The largest publicly managed herd resides in Yellowstone National Park, with over 4,000 bison. Other significant conservation herds are found in national parks and reserves across the United States and Canada, such as the Wood Buffalo National Park in Alberta, Canada, with around 5,000 bison, and the National Bison Range in Montana, housing about 350 bison. The geographical distribution of bison herds is closely tied to environmental factors and land availability. Private herds, which account for the majority of the bison population, are spread across various ranches in North America. The size of these herds vary considerably, with some ranches like Ted Turner's ranches in the United States having over 50,000 bison across various properties. These private herds are primarily raised for bison meat, which has seen a surge in demand due to its health benefits and sustainable farming practices. While public herds are managed primarily for conservation and ecological purposes, private herds are often focused on commercial utilization. In the landscape of North American agriculture, bison farming has carved out a significant niche, transforming from a historically marginalized industry to a burgeoning economic powerhouse. When delving into bison meat production, the numbers speak volumes about the industry's upward trajectory. Annually, more than 35,000 bison are processed for meat in the United States. Bison meat, known for being leaner and higher in protein than beef, commands a premium price. Consumers willingly pay around $10 per pound for ground bison, compared to the $5 to $6 for its beef counterpart, driven by its perceived health benefits and quality. The economic value of bison farming can no longer be overlooked, with the market for bison meat now estimated at over $280 million annually. The industry's growth has stimulated interest in export markets, particularly in Europe, where the appetite for quality bison meat is on the rise. The comparison of bison farming with traditional cattle rearing reveals some stark contrasts. Bison, being hardy and resilient, require fewer resources like feed and veterinary care, adapting more naturally to harsh weather conditions and resisting diseases. This lower maintenance, however, comes with a trade-off in growth rates, as bison tend to grow slower than cattle, reflected in their higher feed conversion ratios. The ecological impact of bison in North America is profound and multifaceted. When they roamed the vast grasslands, these majestic animals played a critical role in shaping the ecology of the continent. As engineers of their environment, bison's grazing habits fostered diverse and robust prairies. Their preference for certain grasses and the way they trample the soil aid in seed dispersal and growth of native plants, which in turn supports a diverse range of wildlife. Studies have shown that areas grazed by bison exhibit a higher biodiversity than those grazed by other livestock, underlining their unique role in ecosystem management. Despite their benefits, the full ecological potential of bison remains partially untapped due to their reduced numbers and confined ranges. The current herds, occupying a fraction of their historical range, hint at the vast ecological contributions they could make if their populations and habitats were restored more extensively. In the modern context, bison reintroduction projects are not just about increasing numbers. They symbolize a larger effort to restore ecological processes that have been disrupted. As the bison herds grow and reclaim their old roaming grounds, the hope is that they will once again become the architects of a thriving and resilient ecosystem. Yet, this journey is not without its challenges. One of the most pressing issues is genetic diversity. As the bison population plummeted in the 19th century, so did its genetic variety. Today's herds, largely descendants of a small ancestral pool, face the risks associated with reduced genetic diversity, including vulnerability to diseases and environmental changes. Another significant challenge is habitat loss. Modern land use, from agriculture to urban development, has drastically reduced the available open spaces. Ensuring enough habitat for bison not only to live, but to thrive is a complex task involving negotiations with landowners, policy changes, and often public opinion battles. In conclusion, the future of the North American bison, while promising, requires a delicate balance of conservation, sustainable management, and economic viability. It's a testament to the power of collective effort in wildlife conservation, symbolizing a hope that extends beyond the prairies where these majestic creatures roam. As we look ahead, the story of the bison is not just about numbers and statistics. It's about our relationship with the natural world and the legacy we choose to create. In the heart of Norway lies a pivotal sector of the global seafood industry, salmon farming. Norwegian fisheries, celebrated for their efficiency, have mastered the art of raising over 30 million salmon annually. These efforts contribute significantly to Norway's economy, with the salmon farming sector making up a substantial portion of the country's seafood exports. As of 2022, the total export value of Atlantic salmon from Norway amounted to $11.2 billion. The story of Norwegian salmon farming is one of impressive numbers, showcasing a journey from humble beginnings to a position of global leadership in seafood production. In the serene fjords of Norway, the 1970s marked a pivotal turn in the country's maritime history with the inception of salmon farming. This transformative period began when Norwegian fishermen, grappling with the decline of wild salmon stocks, embarked on a journey towards sustainable aquaculture. Initially, their efforts were modest, employing rudimentary floating cages and experimenting with breeding techniques. As the industry took root, it experienced exponential growth. By the early 1980s, what started as a collection of small-scale operations had burgeoned into a major sector of the Norwegian economy. Production volumes, a mere few thousand tons in the late 1970s, skyrocketed to over 100,000 tons by the end of the decade. The industry's impact was not just domestic. By the mid-1980s, Norway had begun to assert itself as a key player on the global stage, with exports of farmed salmon reaching markets far and wide. The value of these exports mirrored the industry's physical growth, multiplying several times over in just a few years. This surge in export value highlighted not only the increasing demand for salmon worldwide, but also the growing recognition of Norway's expertise and innovation in sustainable aquaculture practices. Norwegian salmon farming's early days were characterized by a blend of traditional fishing knowledge and a willingness to adopt new technologies and methods. This blend proved crucial in overcoming the initial challenges of cultivating salmon in captivity. As the Norwegian salmon farming industry grew, it embraced a wave of technological innovations that significantly enhanced its efficiency and production capabilities. In the early stages, manual methods dominated, but the introduction of automated feeding systems marked a revolutionary shift. These systems allowed for precise control of feed quantities, leading to a reduction in feed cost by approximately 15%. while simultaneously improving the growth rates of salmon. Advanced breeding programs were also initiated, leveraging genetic insights to enhance the resilience and health of the salmon stock. As a result, survival rates from egg to harvest improved by over 20%, a testament to the industry's commitment to sustainable growth. In the fjords where these farms are nestled, the integration of modern technology continued to redefine aquaculture practices. Norwegian farmers began employing sophisticated monitoring systems, using sensors and underwater cameras to keep an eye on the health and behavior of the salmon. This data-driven approach was pivotal in maintaining optimal living conditions within the pens. The ability to monitor water quality and temperature in real time led to a more responsive and adaptive farming environment, ensuring the well-being of the salmon and enhancing their growth environment. Such advancements have not only bolstered the efficiency of the operations, but have also played a crucial role in minimizing the ecological footprint of the farms. Central to the operation's success was the continual refinement of these technological systems. Innovations like underwater drones and AI-driven monitoring have become the industry's backbone, providing real-time insights into pen conditions and fish health. The precision of these tools allows farmers to adjust feeding schedules and densities, ensuring the best possible growth conditions. This level of control and efficiency has set a new standard in the aquaculture industry, solidifying Norway's position as a leader in sustainable salmon farming practices. The impact of these technological advancements is clear, a marked increase in annual production, with the industry now capable of producing over 30 million salmon each year, while maintaining a steadfast commitment to environmental stewardship and the highest standards of fish welfare. The life cycle of these fish is meticulously managed from the very first stage. Annually, millions of eggs are incubated under conditions that meticulously mimic nature, ensuring optimal temperature and water quality. During their early life, the fry are nurtured in these hatcheries until they reach the smolt stage, typically around 12 to 18 months old. It is at this stage they are ready for the significant transition to the saltwater environment of the open pens. The number of smolts transferred annually runs into tens of millions. Once settled in the open pens, strategically placed in the deep fjords, the salmon enter the growth phase of their life cycle. Here, they spend up to 2 years growing from smolts to fully matured fish ready for harvest. During this period, their weight increases exponentially, often reaching up to 5 to 6 kilograms. But Norwegian salmon farming faces significant challenges that necessitate innovative solutions. A primary concern is disease control. In response, Norwegian fisheries have adopted stringent health monitoring systems and widespread vaccinations, leading to a dramatic reduction in antibiotic use by up to 90% in the past decade. This proactive approach has not only improved the overall health of the salmon, but also minimized the environmental impact of pharmaceuticals in marine ecosystems. Another critical issue is sea lice, parasites that attach to salmon, harming their health. Norway has pioneered non-chemical methods to tackle this. Techniques like using cleaner fish, which naturally feed on these parasites, have been effective, reducing sea lice infestations by as much as 60%. Escapees are also a point of concern. Farm-raised salmon escaping into the wild can potentially disrupt local ecosystems. To prevent this, the industry has strengthened pen structures and introduced rigorous monitoring, resulting in a decrease in escape incidents by over 50% in recent years. Central to the environmental balance is the impact of fish farming on local marine ecosystems. Norway has taken strides in addressing issues like waste management and feed sustainability. The feed, once heavily reliant on wild fish, now increasingly incorporates plant-based and alternative proteins, reducing the reliance on ocean fish stocks by 30%. As global demand for seafood rises, Norway's commitment to sustainable practices in salmon farming serves as a model. Striving not just for economic gain, but for harmony with nature, the industry has achieved a remarkable balance. This balance is vital in maintaining the health of both the salmon and the marine ecosystem, ensuring the industry's sustainability and resilience in the face of environmental challenges. In the picturesque coastal towns of Norway, the salmon industry has become synonymous with employment and community sustenance. In areas where job opportunities are often limited, salmon farming offers a vital source of livelihood. The industry has created thousands of jobs, not just in direct farming activities, but also in ancillary sectors. It's common to find entire families whose lives and livelihoods are intertwined with the salmon farming industry, underscoring its significance in local community life. In essence, the economic and social impact of Norwegian salmon farming is profound. This industry transcends its primary function of food production, playing a pivotal role in sustaining local communities and fueling Norway's economy. Its influence is felt not just nationally, but also on a global scale, echoing Norway's commitment to not only economic growth, but also to sustainable and responsible aquaculture practices. In conclusion, Norway's journey in salmon farming, marked by impressive numbers and innovation, paints a future of continued growth and sustainability. Projections suggest increasing production efficiencies, advancements in eco-friendly technologies, and significant economic contributions, maintaining Norway's leading role in global seafood supply, while upholding its commitment to environmental harmony. Alpacas, with their serene demeanor and valuable fleece, have become a quiet yet significant part of American farming. Originating from the Andean highlands, alpacas found a new home in the U.S. several decades ago. As of the latest data, the U.S. boasts over 4,000 alpaca farms, nurturing a population that exceeds 200,000. These farms are dedicated to raising alpacas, not just for their charismatic presence, but for their valuable fleece. These numbers are not just a testament to the growing interest in alpaca farming, but also highlight the burgeoning role of these animals in the American textile industry. Each year, these alpacas collectively produce a remarkable volume of fleece, known for its softness and thermal properties, contributing significantly to the niche but flourishing market of luxury fibers. This video delves into the journey of these alpacas, unveiling their impact on the farming practices, economies, and the American agricultural narrative. The journey of alpacas in American farming began over 2 decades ago, marking a transition from exotic novelty to a staple in the textile industry. These charismatic creatures, native to the mountainous regions of South America, first set hoof on U.S. soil in the mid-1980s. Initially, their limited presence was a mere curiosity among the broader farming community. Initial records show that only a handful of farms, less than 100 nationwide, ventured into alpaca farming, nurturing a population that barely exceeded a few thousand. However, the potential of alpacas in high-quality fiber production quickly caught the attention of American farmers. By the turn of the millennium, the industry saw a significant upswing. The number of alpaca farms burgeoned to over 500, housing tens of thousands of these Indian natives. This growth was not just in numbers, but also in the sophistication of breeding and wool production techniques. As of the latest data, this upward trajectory has continued impressively. From a few thousand pounds of wool in the early years to hundreds of thousands of pounds now, the alpaca's journey mirrors an industry's evolution, adapting and thriving in a new land. On the sprawling landscapes of American farms, a data-driven approach underpins every aspect of the care of tens of thousands of breeding alpacas. Breeding programs are not just about maintaining genetic diversity, but also about boosting population numbers effectively. Annually, these programs contribute to a robust birth rate, with survival rates impressively high. In fact, the survival rate of newborn alpacas on these farms often exceeds 90%, a testament to the rigorous attention given to their well-being. The dietary regime of alpacas is a carefully balanced equation of nutrition and palatability. Each alpaca consumes an average of 2 to 3 pounds of feed daily, primarily consisting of high-quality hay and grass. This diet is supplemented with grains and minerals, ensuring they receive all the necessary nutrients. This carefully calibrated diet plays a pivotal role not only in maintaining their health, but also in enhancing the quality of their wool. The maintenance practices are equally data-driven, with regular shearing scheduled every 12 to 18 months to prevent overheating and ensure comfort. Furthermore, routine toenail trims and dental checks are conducted to prevent overgrowth and alignment issues, critical for the alpaca's overall health. Healthcare on these farms is another area where numbers speak volumes. Routine veterinary visits ensure that over 95% of the herd is in optimal health, a statistic that directly influences productivity. On these farms, there's a keen focus on preventative care to minimize illness. Parasite control measures, integral to maintaining herd health, are implemented with a success rate of over 98%. The result of these quantifiable strategies is a thriving alpaca population. Alpaca shearing in the United States is not just a crucial farming practice, but also a significant event in the annual agricultural calendar, marked by its impressive numbers and meticulous planning. Each year, as spring heralds the shearing season, American alpaca farms buzz with activity, undertaking the task of harvesting wool from their herds. On average, an alpaca yields between 5 to 10 pounds of wool annually. The process of shearing itself is a blend of skill and precision, often involving a team of experienced shearers. Each shearer is capable of handling about 5 to 10 alpacas per day. Depending on factors such as the animal's size and the wool's condition, the number of shearers on a farm can vary greatly. Smaller farms might employ just 1 or 2, while larger operations require a team working in tandem over several days to manage their larger herds. This efficiency is crucial to meet the demands of the market and ensure the well-being of the alpacas, as prolonged shearing processes can cause stress to the animals. Once sheared, the wool enters a phase of sorting and grading. Each fleece is assessed for fineness, length, and color, determining its suitability for various end products. From luxurious garments to sturdy textiles, the fate of each fleece is decided in this meticulous process. Approximately 30% of the annual wool yield finds its way into the luxury clothing sector, transformed into elegant sweaters, scarves, and coats. Another 25% of the wool is channeled into the home textiles market. Here, it is utilized in the crafting of plush blankets, comfortable upholstery, and other domestic accessories. The remaining 45% of the wool, while not as prominently featured in mainstream markets, serves a critical role in diversifying the use of alpaca fiber. This portion is incorporated into outdoor clothing, leveraging the natural water-resistant and thermal properties of alpaca wool. Its utility in this sector underscores the practicality of the fiber, extending beyond aesthetics to functional, durable clothing ideal for outdoor adventures. Additionally, a portion of this segment is dedicated to producing industrial-grade materials, including rugs and other durable goods, where the coarser grades of alpaca wool are put to excellent use. This strategic distribution of alpaca wool not only demonstrates its multifaceted applications, but also reflects the careful market planning by American farmers and textile industries. They ensure that every ounce of wool is optimally utilized, catering to a wide array of consumer needs, from high fashion to practical everyday use. Such an approach underlines the efficiency and economic savvy inherent in the American alpaca industry, turning the yearly production of millions of pounds of alpaca wool into a spectrum of valuable, sought-after products. Current estimates place the market value at approximately $50 million annually. While the United States stands as a notable producer, it also actively participates in international commerce to balance its own market demands. Each year, significant quantities of raw alpaca fiber are imported, primarily from Peru, the global heartland of alpacas, supplementing the domestic output. Conversely, American farms export a smaller yet steadily growing volume of alpaca wool, with Europe and Asia emerging as key markets. These trade activities not only harmonize the supply and demand within the domestic market, but also integrate the U.S. into the broader narrative of the global textile industry. Beyond trade, the ripple effect of alpaca farming extends to job creation and local economies, particularly in rural areas where these farms are typically located. Detailed analysis reveals that alpaca farming and its related industries inject millions of dollars into local economies. The number of jobs directly or indirectly linked to this sector is significant, spanning farming, processing, marketing, and retail. In essence, the economic story of American alpaca wool transcends mere numbers and trade figures. It represents a powerful example of how a niche agricultural sector can impact livelihoods and the economy at large, while delivering a unique product to the market. As this industry continues to expand, it promises not only greater economic contributions, but also a richer, more diverse cultural and agricultural tapestry within the United States. Pork, the quintessential American meat, has been a household favorite for generations, and it's not hard to see why. From bacon to pork chops, this versatile meat is a staple in kitchens across the nation. With over 73 million hogs and pigs on farms from coast to coast, it's clear that the American appetite for pork is here to stay. In fact, on average, each person in the United States consumes over 51 pounds of pork per year. The numbers are simply staggering. In 2021 alone, the U.S. pig industry produced nearly 27 billion pounds of pork, fueling an industry that supports over 53,000 jobs and generates more than $30.6 billion in revenue annually. But what really sets the pork industry apart is its global reach. Recent data up until 2021 shows that the industry is continuing to expand at a remarkable rate, with a record 29% of total pork production being exported to international buyers. That means that almost 1 out of every 3 pigs bred and raised in the U.S. is destined for foreign lands. In terms of numbers, an astonishing 7.03 billion pounds of U.S. pork were exported, while only 14.83 pounds were consumed domestically. Put simply, 25% of all U.S. pork finds its way to tables across the world. Behind these impressive numbers are the hard-working farmers who keep the industry humming. So let us take a deep dive into the world of American pork farming and uncover the innovative techniques that American farmers are using to keep this industry thriving. When it comes to pork production in the United States, 3 states lead the pack: Iowa, Minnesota, and North Carolina. These states are responsible for a significant portion of the pork produced in the country, with Iowa taking the top spot by producing over 23.6 million hogs and pigs in 2022. That's an impressive amount of pork. Minnesota and North Carolina are not far behind, with roughly 8.6 million and 8.2 million hogs and pigs raised, respectively. Raising pigs requires careful management, attention to detail, and a great deal of hard work. The first step in the process is selecting a suitable breed. When it comes to selecting the right breed of pigs, farmers are like matchmakers, seeking the perfect match for their farm's climate, location, and market. Popular breeds like Hampshire, Duroc, and Yorkshire are carefully selected for their traits, which are well suited to specific farming conditions. Once chosen, the pigs are brought to the farm and housed in specialized indoor facilities, where every aspect of their environment is carefully controlled to ensure their comfort and well-being. Pigs require a balanced diet to thrive. The feed is a special mixture of grains such as corn, wheat, and soybeans, along with protein sources like soybean meal, fish meal, and dried whey, tailored to the pig's specific needs. Farmers take into account the pig's age, weight, breed, and stage of development, ensuring that they receive the perfect combination of nutrients to keep them healthy and strong. They also consider any health issues that may arise, such as digestive problems or nutrient deficiencies, to ensure that the pigs receive necessary care. To deliver the feed, specialized equipment is used, including automatic feeding systems that dispense the correct amount of feed at the appropriate time. These computer-controlled systems can be programmed to deliver different amounts and types of feed depending on each pig's individual needs, ensuring that they receive the right amount of nutrition every time. Nonetheless, it's crucial to keep in mind that the U.S. pork-producing business isn't really cut and dry. Instead, it is a remarkably large and intricate corporation that employs a wide range of strategies to turn a profit. A farmer may choose to keep an animal through its whole life cycle, from birth to slaughter, or they may choose to raise pigs until they weigh between 10 and 60 pounds. The piglets are later sold to other businesses where they are reared until they are fully grown. Smaller businesses that lack the resources to rear pigs to full maturity frequently perform this. Another common technique is developing pigs to their full meaty potential once they have reached the feeder pig stage. Pigs have a longer biological cycle than broilers, but a shorter one than cattle. A sow or adult female hog can produce slightly more than 2 litters per year, with each litter consisting of an average of 9 piglets. That means hog farmers need to stay on top of the different phases of hog production to ensure they have a steady supply of healthy pigs throughout the year. The appropriate age and weight for a pig slaughter can vary depending on the market and the specific goals of the farmer or producer. In general, pigs are typically slaughtered at around 6 months of age and weigh between 240 to 270 pounds. However, some farmers may choose to slaughter their pigs at different ages and weights, depending on their production goals and market demand. The process of slaughtering pigs is carefully regulated by government agencies to ensure that it is done safely and humanely. At the processing plant, the pigs are first stunned, usually by electrocution or carbon dioxide gas, to render them unconscious and insensitive to pain. They are then bled out, and their carcasses are cleaned, skinned, and butchered into different cuts of meat. The meat is then packaged and shipped to grocery stores, restaurants, and other retailers, where it is sold to consumers. It is important to note that the meat undergoes rigorous safety and quality inspections at each stage of the processing to ensure that it is safe for human consumption. Despite the economic benefits and efficiency of large-scale pig farming in the United States, concerns have been raised about the welfare of pigs, environmental impact, and use of antibiotics. As we delve deeper into the realities of pig farming in the country, it becomes evident that the living conditions of pigs on the farms are far from ideal. Picture this: row upon row of metal stalls, each holding a pig, thousands of them, packed tightly together, barely able to move. The air is thick with the stench of waste, and the only light comes from fluorescent bulbs above. This is a concentrated animal feeding operation, or CAFO, where the majority of pigs in the United States are raised for meat production. These facilities are designed for maximum efficiency, with every inch of space utilized to produce as much meat as possible. But at what cost? The pigs in these facilities are living in cramped, barren conditions, without access to natural light or fresh air. They are fed a diet of grain and soybean meal, supplemented with vitamins and antibiotics to promote growth and prevent disease. But the overuse of antibiotics in livestock production is contributing to the development of antibiotic-resistant bacteria, which poses a growing threat to public health. And the disposal of pig waste is another major issue, with large amounts of manure produced by these facilities that can contaminate nearby water sources if not properly managed. Perhaps the most concerning aspect of these facilities is the welfare of the pigs themselves. Animal rights advocates argue that the pigs are subjected to cruel and inhumane conditions, including overcrowding, lack of enrichment, and limited mobility. And while some farmers and industry groups have implemented welfare standards and certification programs to improve conditions, the reality is that the vast majority of pigs raised for meat in the United States are still living in these cramped, barren facilities. In conclusion, while pig farming is a sizable business in the United States that creates income and employment, it also faces enormous obstacles that cannot be disregarded. To maintain a sustainable and moral sector, it is important to address concerns about animal welfare, environmental effect, and the excessive use of antibiotics in livestock production. Demand for pig products farmed in more humane and ecological methods is rising as customers become more aware of and concerned about these issues. The capacity of the industry to adjust to these shifting customer tastes and put policies in place that value environmental sustainability and animal welfare will determine the future of pig farming in the United States. Texas, a state synonymous with vast open spaces and a rich history of cattle ranching. With its diverse landscapes ranging from arid deserts to lush grasslands, Texas has been home to the iconic Texas Longhorn. These Longhorns, known for their distinctive horns that can span over 6 feet, are not just a symbol of Texan heritage, but also a cornerstone of American beef farming. Today, Texas stands proudly as a leader in the cattle industry, providing a home to over 2 million Longhorns. Texas, a state larger than many countries, dedicates an astonishing portion of its land to cattle ranches, making it the epicenter of beef production in the United States. To put it into perspective, the combined acreage of these ranches often exceeds the landmass of entire European nations. Here, cattle ranching is a way of life, a tradition as old as the westward-bound pioneers. Have you ever wondered how these many Longhorns are raised and cared for in such a massive state? Well, saddle up, because you're about to find out. The 19th century marked a pivotal era for Longhorns. Following the Civil War, Texas found itself with an abundance of cattle but a devastated economy. This disparity led to the legendary cattle drives of the 1860s and 1870s, where millions of Longhorns were herded north to railheads in Kansas, injecting life back into the Texan economy. The cattle population during this period is estimated to have reached several million. However, by the late 1800s, the introduction of barbed wire and the rise of commercial ranching practices began to reshape the landscape. Longhorn numbers dwindled as ranchers favored other breeds for their meat yield and hardiness. Originating from Spanish cattle brought by explorers in the 16th century, the Texas Longhorn adapted to the diverse Texan environment, evolving into the resilient animal we know today. By the early 18th century, these cattle had multiplied significantly, roaming freely across the Texas terrain. Their numbers soared into the thousands, becoming an integral part of the local landscape and economy. Despite this decline, the 20th century saw a resurgence in interest in the Texas Longhorn, fueled by efforts to preserve the breed for its historical significance. Conservationists and cattle enthusiasts began breeding programs, leading to a steady increase in Longhorn populations. Now, let's talk numbers. The significance of raising 2 million Longhorns can't be overstated. These cattle aren't confined to a single ranch. They dot the Texan landscape across numerous ranches and regions. A typical Longhorn ranch covers thousands of acres and houses an average of 1,500 Longhorn cattle. The ranch, functioning like a well-oiled machine, is a fusion of tradition and modernity, where the age-old practice of cattle rearing meets the efficiencies of contemporary technology. Life on a Texas cattle ranch is demanding, rooted in tradition, and built on a deep respect for the land and livestock. A typical day on the ranch begins at dawn. The ranch hands, a skilled team of 10, start their day with a head count, a crucial task to ensure the health and safety of the herd. This process, once time-consuming and labor-intensive, has been streamlined by the use of RFID tags and GPS tracking. Each Longhorn is tagged, allowing for easy monitoring of their location and health status, a vital innovation considering the size of the herd and the expanse of the ranch. Feeding the herd is a logistical feat in itself. Each day, approximately 6,000 pounds of feed are distributed across the ranch. This feed is a calculated mix of grains, minerals, and forage, designed to meet the nutritional needs of the Longhorns. The feeding process, once a manual and arduous task, is now mechanized. Tractors and feed mixers ensure that the cattle are fed efficiently and consistently, maintaining the herd's health and vigor. In essence, the modern Texas Longhorn Ranch is a blend of scale, efficiency, and technological integration. It stands as a symbol of the state's commitment to maintaining its legacy as a leader in American beef farming, while embracing the innovations necessary to sustain this venerable industry in the 21st century. Technology also plays a pivotal role in the management of the ranch. Drones are used for aerial surveillance, providing a bird's-eye view of the sprawling acreage. This not only aids in monitoring the cattle, but also in assessing pasture conditions, identifying areas that require attention, be it irrigation or reseeding. The ranch's infrastructure, from fencing to water systems, is regularly checked and maintained, ensuring an environment conducive to the health and well-being of the Longhorns. Texas Longhorn cattle farming stands as a substantial pillar in the state's economy. It provides jobs, sustains communities, and supports a network of industries, from cattle feed production to meat processing. As of recent data, the Longhorn industry contributes significantly to the U.S. annual agricultural revenue, generating a total of approximately $12.3 billion. Texas Longhorns account for a substantial portion of beef production in the United States, with a staggering 15 to 20% of the nation's beef coming from the state. This substantial contribution directly impacts the availability and pricing of beef across the U.S. Thanks to the sheer scale of Texas Longhorn ranching, there's a consistent supply of beef products to meet the demands of the American market. This helps stabilize beef prices, preventing major fluctuations that could affect consumers' wallets. The market size for Texas Longhorn beef keeps steadily growing, reflecting both the demand and the premium pricing these cattle can command due to their unique characteristics and historical significance. Domestically, the consumption of Longhorn beef has seen an upward trend, with the increasing preference for grass-fed and sustainably raised beef among American consumers. Longhorn beef, known for its leaner meat and distinctive flavor, has gained popularity. This shift in consumer preference has further invigorated the market, leading to a surge in demand both in retail and in the culinary scene, where Longhorn beef is often featured in high-end restaurants across the country. In terms of exports, Texas plays a pivotal role in the U.S. beef market, with a sizable percentage of its production being shipped overseas. The state is responsible for a notable fraction of America's beef exports. This export market not only bolsters the state's economy, but also places Texas Longhorn beef on the global stage, showcasing its quality and heritage. Cattle ranching is not all sunshine and flowers, though. Cattle ranching confronts a trio of challenges: disease, weather extremities, and market fluctuations. Each of these factors exerts a tangible impact on the industry, necessitating adaptive strategies by ranchers. Disease poses a constant threat to cattle health and productivity. For instance, a recent outbreak of bovine respiratory disease affected approximately 5% of the cattle in the region, translating to economic losses in the millions. In response, ranchers have intensified their vaccination efforts. Annually, over 1.2 million doses of vaccines are administered across Texas ranches, a strategic move to bolster herd immunity and minimize disease spread. Responsibilities on a cattle ranch are unceasing. Ensuring the health and well-being of 2 million Longhorns is a round-the-clock endeavor. It involves monitoring their nutrition, tending to injuries, and providing veterinary care when needed. Ranchers also oversee breeding programs, ensuring the continuation of quality bloodlines. Managing such a vast herd requires skill and experience. Ranchers must possess a keen eye for detail, knowing each animal by sight. They strategize the rotation of pastures for optimal grazing and monitor water sources to keep the herd hydrated. In emergencies, like a sudden illness outbreak, they act swiftly to isolate affected animals and prevent the spread. Weather in Texas is another unpredictable element, swinging from scorching droughts to destructive floods. These extremes challenge the traditional ranching methods, leading to a loss of up to 10% in annual cattle productivity. To combat these weather challenges, ranchers have invested heavily in weather-resistant infrastructure. Over the past decade, expenditures have exceeded $100 million on facilities like covered feeding areas and improved water storage systems, ensuring that cattle remain nourished and safe regardless of weather conditions. Market fluctuations also play a critical role in the ranching business. The beef market is volatile, with prices swinging by as much as 20% within a year, directly affecting ranchers' revenues. To mitigate this, Texas ranchers have diversified their income streams. By incorporating agritourism and selling artisanal beef products, they've managed to offset up to 15% of the losses caused by market downturns. In essence, the Texas Longhorns are the backbone of American beef, ensuring that there's enough beef to go around and that it remains affordable for all. It's a story of how numbers on a Texas ranch translate to meals on American plates, day after day. These adaptive strategies showcase the resilience and ingenuity of Texas cattle ranchers. By confronting challenges head-on with practical solutions, they ensure the sustainability and prosperity of Longhorn cattle farming.